Republican leaders of the House Judiciary Committee want to know if Attorney General Eric Holder may have perjured himself when he testified before the committee back on May 15th. They have sent the Attorney General a detailed letter asking him to clear up what appears to be, to many people, a conflict. The deadline for those answers is Wednesday. Joining us now from Wisconsin, one of the authors of that letter, Congressman Jim Sensenbrenner. He is a Republican from Washington. Sir, thank you for your time today.
Good afternoon, Shannon.
And I wanted to first ask you, well, first of all, let me outline what the Attorney General said, in case folks don't know exactly what he said on May 15th before the committee. He said, with regard to the potential prosecution of the press for the disclosure of material, that is not something that I've ever been involved in. He went on to say, I've never even heard of that. Where is the conflict for you and what we now know about the Attorney General's involvement in some of these cases?
Well, I guess the answer to that is that about 9 days after the Attorney General said that, the Justice Department said that the subpoenas against Fox News correspondent James Rosen were approved by the highest levels of the Justice Department, including participation by the Attorney General. Now, the subpoena, or the warrant, more properly called, accused Rosen of being a common criminal. It accused him of violating the Espionage Act, and it also called for a lot more than the disclosure of material relating to Mr. Rosen's contact with Stephen Kim, who has been indicted for violating the Espionage Act. And if I can quote to the application, it says that Mr. Rosen would have to provide any document, image, record, or information concerning the national defense than any other Department of Defense, U.S. military and/or weapons material, and any communications concerning such documents, images, records, or information. That's a fishing expedition. That's much broader than merely going after Mr. Rosen for material that he might have had with the information that Mr. Kim gave him. And remember, Mr. Kim is indictment for violating the Espionage Act. Now, I can't think of a more chilling effect on the news media and violating the First Amendment by having that kind of fishing expedition and say, we're accusing you of being a common criminal unless you comply.
Well, knowing what we know about the Attorney General's involvement and what you detailed that is in that search warrant and the affidavit that accompanied it and made it possible, and what he told you on May 15th, do you personally think he misled you or he perjured himself?
Well, getting a perjury rap is really hard to convince a jury that he perjured himself. He may have done so, and I think that we need some more information. You know, first of all, I think the Attorney General should be given the opportunity to clarify what he did. But even if he makes that clarification, I think he has lost the confidence of the American people and definitely of the Congress. He ought to resign. The President ought to appoint somebody else to replace him who can start with a clean slate. That will restore the confidence of the people of this country in the Justice Department. Now, there are a few other departments of the government that need a little bit of confidence restoration, starting with the IRS. But let's go after this cabinet official and make sure that he comes clean. And if he won't do that, then we're going to have to need an independent counsel. Because if we don't have an independent counsel, then the Justice Department will end up prosecuting their boss. And that is a doozy of a conflict of interest.
Absolutely would be. He's got a deadline, the Attorney General, set by you and Congressman Goodlatte until Wednesday. If he does not answer, what's the next step for the Attorney General?
Well, I think we ought to subpoena the Attorney General to come back and answer those questions specifically. This is Congress fulfilling its constitutional obligation to provide oversight over the executive branch of government. Now, oversight is tough. And when you receive an oversight letter, there are consequences for not complying. I was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee during the Bush administration, and I had a lot of tussles with Attorneys General Ashcroft and Gonzalez about them complying with things that were under our jurisdiction and the implementation of laws that we helped write and managed on the floor, which got passed. Mr. Ashcroft wasn't happy about the fact that I canceled a hearing on him at the last minute because he didn't submit the information so that the members of the committee and our staff could get to the bottom of it. But again, Congress has some responsibilities, and what Mr. Goodlatte and I are doing are discharging those responsibilities in the spirit of the framers of the Constitution.
All right, Congressman Sensenbrenner, Republican from Wisconsin.
Thank you.
We'll see you when you're back in town this week. Thank you, sir.